My name is Albie Robles, and I'm a voice actor. I'm one of those voices you hear in things like corporate training, audiobooks, online tutorials, but sometimes I get to work on more fun stuff like movies or video games. But my favorite type of project to work on, out of anything, is horror. You see, I've loved horror ever since I was a kid. I remember going to the adult side of the library and checking out one Stephen King book after the next, and staying up late hoping to catch a Tales from the Crypt or a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I know I wasn't alone in that. My friends liked that stuff too. But here's what set me apart. While a lot of my friends would laugh while exiting the movie theater, talking about how the movie hadn't been scary at all, I would laugh and go along with them, hiding the fact that I had been scared. I've always had a deep sense of empathy, and it's easier for me to imagine while I'm watching something, while I'm reading something, that this is really taking place, that it's happening to someone. And that's why I scare easily at movies, books, or even someone in a dark room telling me a ghost story. So I get invested in the stories. I feel that mixture of dread and fear, and my breathing deepens, and I love it. Going to a scary movie and not letting yourself get scared? Where's the fun in that? I started this podcast not only to talk about my love of fear and horror, but to give you a platform to share yours. Because I know many of us feel this way. We're curious about fear. We're drawn to it. So have a seat. Tell me a story. Tell me about an experience you've had. A legend local to your area. Or even a movie you saw as a child that scared you so much it stayed with you. Tell me why it scares you. Tell me why you love it. In this podcast, I want you to scare me.
Welcome to Coffee with Chris. Before we dive into it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We just had the opportunity to listen to the Scare Me Now trailer from Albie Robles, podcast founder, amazing voice. I would say that it's like peanut butter for your ears, just not as nutty. Albie Robles, thank you so much for your time and my weird introduction, and welcome.
Thank you so much. The introduction was great. I appreciate it.
So walk me through Scare Me Now podcast. I mean, it's such a unique opportunity for people to try to scare you. How did this come about?
The Scare Me podcast came from, when I first started doing voiceover, little by little, I was learning how to do all my own editing and engineering and all that. And at one point, my wife asked if I would help her record a podcast with our niece about teaching. And so I realized, I have everything I need for that. And so I did that for her for a while, and I wanted one for my own. Long before that, I wanted one for my own, but once I had the realization that I had the capability, I really wanted to do something. But looking at everything that's out there was like, well, everything kind of has been done. Like, what could I offer that's kind of a fresh thing? And I ended up at some point, somebody was telling me about a ghost that they'd seen or something. It was just some story that I've always loved listening to stories like that, and I feel the little, the goosebumps and the hair on the back of my head and the back of my neck just kind of standing on end. And I realized how much I love that feeling. It's such a getting scared like that is so fun. Particularly at a story that's supposedly true. And so I said, you know what? Never mind what's fresh and what's original. I like feeling like that, and so I'm gonna create a format where basically I get to feel that all the time. And I started looking around for people that had an experience and that had real paranormal experiences or things that they couldn't explain, and it just picked up from there. I got some really amazing stories from people, but also I had a handful of experiences that I couldn't quite explain, and doing the little introductions before introducing guests kind of gave me a place to finally tell those stories in the and I think the probably the most thorough and best way that I've been able to tell them.
Now, with your podcast, you actually have this part in the trailer, and I love it. I'm trying to figure a way to articulate it. It's more of a why not let yourself be scared? Like, where's the fun in that? You go see these movies,
Yeah.
or, you know, why is that important to have that vulnerability when you're watching these movies?
Well, because otherwise, what's the point? Why even like them? That to me, that's like going to a comedy and going, "Hey, everybody, check it out! I am so cool that I'm not going to laugh once." And it's it's so silly to me. And if somebody goes to a movie and they just don't find it scary, that's fine. That's one thing. But it's this weird thing that a lot of people do where they're bragging about not being scared and like they've accomplished something by achieving I watched it and I didn't get scared once. Man, that was so dumb. That wasn't scary. And you can kind of hear in their voice when they went in with basically so that they could come out saying that they feel, I don't know if they feel tough or if they feel like bigger people or cooler people, but I think it's pointless. Why go to it at all? I go in and I see a lot that don't scare me. That happens, but I go in with my mind on I hope this movie really scares me, and I find that with that mindset, a lot more do, and I have a lot more fun than the people that just talk about how nothing ever scares them, that there are no scary movies because all they do is laugh at them all the time. And well, to me, that just doesn't sound like a good time. I go to those because I want to get scared. That's why I go to a scary movie, and in some cases, they're scary to me to the point where, like I saw Hereditary and I loved it, and I thought it was a really great movie, and I will probably not watch it again. That one was very scary to me. Um, I think it just makes a difference with when you open yourself up like that. I think it's way more fun.
Now, something I forgot to mention in the introduction is that you're a voice artist, your voice talent. You've been doing video games and anime and movies and things like this as well. How did you get into voice acting originally?
So I've always been someone who needs to perform somehow. I as a little boy, I would do plays for my parents and aunts and uncles and all that, and stage plays with my cousins. I remember one time we just acted out Predator for them, the movie Predator. We just acted out for the family, and it's just we just always there's always been a drive to do that, and I play music also, and um I know that I'd always wanted to do something that was creative, whether it was being in being in a band, being working behind the scenes in movies, or to be an actor. For a long time, I just wanted to be an actor, and then for a long time, I wanted to be a grip, and they just kind of kept switching around, but it was always around that periphery, and feeling like I was creating. And when I did a play for North Lake College a few years ago, gosh, it's been over 10 years ago at this point. Um, the lady that runs that department, who had been doing that, running that department for many, many years, and everybody there loves her. She came up and told me that I had something acting wise that she had come across maybe she said maybe 3 or 4 times in the entire time I've done this. You need to not squander it. You need to do something with this. And to get taken aside and told that by somebody who's been working with so many actors for so long, that really meant something. But that also made me feel pretty terrible when, 8 years down the line, I hadn't done anything. Um, I was kind of depending on when I worked at the Sears Las Colinas for a while, and so a lot of my friends were kind of making their own films that I'd help out with. And I guess I didn't know this consciously at the time, but looking back, I know that I was hoping one of them would make it from their hard work, and that I'd get work through that,
Right.
and make it that way. And but that didn't happen. And one of them, one of them's gripping for like Marvel all the time, like regularly, all the Marvel movies. He's a grip for all of those, and that's amazing. But grips can't hire other people like that. That's the thing, and it was very naive way to think back then. That one of us makes it, we all make it. It's just kind of not how that works. But I was getting really depressed that at that point I had kids, and so there was no way for me to commit to doing a play again, to commit the time to do rehearsals. There was no
Right.
way to pursue acting seriously because same for the same reason. Same for being in a band. I couldn't make rehearsals regularly. It just and so I got into this deep depression of not having a creative outlet. I'd play music at home and stuff, but I don't know. When you have this kind of drive, you need an audience. You want to know that you're making somebody feel good, that you're entertaining somebody. And I was just moving from a series of jobs, one dead end job to another. There were not jobs where you can move up and move up and move up and keep getting promoted and build a career on. These were jobs that this is the job and that's it. So that led to a big part of the depression as well. That I kind of looked back and went, man, like I have friends that have built careers in this time, and I've squandered it. I have not. I'm not going to ever have a career of any kind. It's whether it's corporate or anything. I'm just going to be doing these types of jobs the rest of my life, because you have to move into those careers from when you're younger. I was thinking, and I was just really in a bad place. And I talked about it with my wife, and she said, let's just pray about it. Let's pray that something happens that we can maybe change things that'll set off a change. And maybe 2 weeks after that, maybe not even 2 weeks passed, maybe a week and a half. I answered the phone at work, and somebody was calling me from another location, and me and that person had always emailed back and forth, for the
Right.
job. But when I answered the phone, and she went, Albie? And I went, yes. And she, oh my gosh, you should be doing voice work. Well, she was just impressed with how I answered the phone. But
Yeah.
to me, that was like I'd read in a Stephen King book one time the perfect phrase for it. There was like a key turning in a lock. It was there was a click that was almost audible to me that this was it. This was the right thing. But also because of my fears of career and all that, this was it. Like this is the last opportunity to do something. And I brought it up to my wife, very in a very wishy-washy way. Without her responding the way she did, I wouldn't be doing it, because I was almost intimidated to talk about something like this because it's kind of an absurd thing to bring up. And so I brought it up by saying, "Hey, I think I want to start really pursuing voiceover, but maybe just as a side thing, maybe eventually if I can, maybe I can make some money, and that would be nice." And she looked at me, and she looked like she was almost angry at first, and she said, "Stop that." And I said, "What?" "Stop it. Tell me what you want." And I want to pursue this as a career. I want to do this. And she said, "Okay." And with that, uh, I was big on listening to music all the time in the car, and a ton of podcasts that I subscribed to. But from that point, I subscribed to a ton of podcasts about voiceover. And for the next year and a half, I listened to nothing else in the car. Every time I was commuting, that was all I would listen to, no matter where I was going. And also joining every Facebook group that I could, reading people's questions and the answers they got, asking my own when I was confused about a particular answer. I found subreddits about voiceover, and again, just reading the responses everybody was getting, and just gaining this huge amount of knowledge in very little time. And of course, one of the first things that you learn going into this is that you do need coaching, you do need equipment, you need to invest in it to succeed, but you can get some work without those things. And so I basically started getting these little jobs here and there, in any way that I could. And I started making some money, and I was eventually able to buy my first microphone. I was able to buy my first you need the microphone. You also need the equipment to connect the microphone to the computer. And you just need, there's certain things you have to have. And I started buying a ton of sound blankets, as you can see. Some of these are actual sound blankets, and a lot of these are just moving blankets. But I just got everything a little bit at a time. At one point, I was recording in the closet of the bedroom, and then later I kind of built a little recording booth out of a wardrobe that's kind of hidden behind me in these. But that was out in the living room for a while. That was and eventually I converted this room into a studio. But everything was all a little at a time. When I could afford a coach, I got a coach. When I could afford a professional demo, I got a professional demo. And I just kept eking on up until, at this point, I'm working with several agents, and I've gotten to work on some really cool stuff. I've done over 50 audiobooks, and but at one point I was able to leave my job to pursue this full time. And now, I'm not raking it in, money wise. It's not the quite what I was making at the full time job, but I'm so much happier with this, and it is growing every year. Every year has been a growth, considerably better than the last financially, and it's just only moving up from there. And this year I've started offering other services also to kind of generalize the sound thing. So I'm also doing a lot of post-production audio work for different projects like films and things, and also some of the equipment I have here is for recording location sound for film.
Cool.
And I have a great time doing that as well.
Now, where can people learn more about Albie Robles? Is there a website? Is it Instagram, TikTok? Whereabouts are you?
I'm on all of those. If you Google Albie Robles, it'll pull up all of that. Or Albie Robles Linktree will pull up. That'll have all the links I have for my social media and also for the podcast. And if you can find all those things also pretty easily, just albieroblesvoice.com, all one word. I try to keep most of them up to date. I don't really update Twitter as often as I do. I'm not really on there a lot, but I'm a lot more active on Facebook, and I put up TikToks when I can, mostly about kind of what's going on with the career and whatnot.
Now, is there a go-to character voice that you like to do if you're doing an audiobook or a video game? It's just, hey, give me something I haven't really heard before. Do you have a go-to voice that is specific to you?
Mostly my voice is specific to me. And what I mean by that, a lot of people do have a misconception of that being a voice actor means you can do 80 voices, and some can, most can't. And I think when I see a lot of beginners will talk about like, oh, well, I can do 20 voices, I can do 30 voices. Right. But they can't act in any of those. And also those voices do not sound as far apart as they think. But if you look at someone like the voice actor for, I can't think of his name at the time, the voice actor for Bender from Futurama. Mm-hmm. He's in, he's in the Penguins of Madagascar. He's all over the place, that guy. And he always sounds like that. He's a great voice actor, but he does that voice really well. He acts in it really well. And it's more about that, because whether you're doing a character or whether you are reading copy for a commercial or something, you're acting. You're if you're talking for a commercial, that's not how you talk in real life. So you are acting, and like you're the most excited. You're so excited about this detergent or whatever. You have to sound a particular way, and that all is, it's all acting. So that's the first thing, and having a background in improv helped me a lot with that. So I don't do a wide variety of voices. Like if I'm doing an audio book, I'll change the voices slightly, but right. Mostly I'm changing how a character talks, their rhythms, their the
cadence and idiomisms and
cadence. Exactly, that's the word I was trying to think of. Yeah, that's all what changes the most. I don't try to do. I tried one time on one of the first demos I made to do a voice that was like like this high pitched kind of cartoony voice, and when I showed it to another voice actor, he said lose the Jar Jar, and I realized, oh my gosh, that does sound like Jar Jar. And but it wasn't but what he said was it doesn't sound natural. It sounds like you're making a voice. That's the big thing a lot of the new voice actors, I was new at the time, don't realize. If you're doing all these voices, it sounds like you're doing all these voices. You want to just be convincing. So I basically have like 4 things that I do. One is talking like I do now. One is talking like I do now with a Hispanic accent. And I've done work in other accents before. They don't come as natural to me. I have to work pretty hard to get them
Right.
to get the take I want. And then I do a lot of I play a lot of villains. Mostly my character work is villains, and what that mostly consists of is just lowering my voice slightly, gruffing it up a little bit, and I do this voice a lot, and basically Will Arnett, and
In
that's
Batman.
what most of my characters come down to, is that with a change of in cadence, a change in how I deliver it. But that's the voice I probably use the most. And when you get closer to the mic, there's something called the proximity effect, which makes your voice boomier. And when I do that plus proximity effect, it just adds a lot of resonance. And I can act in that voice. I'm comfortable in it, and so I can do that. I can do that well. There were times when I was earlier in the career that I was auditioning for a lot of like younger characters, like young hero characters.
Right.
And at one point, you gotta accept there are some characters you can do really well, and there are some you'll never be able to do well. Like maybe I can somehow pull off like the young hero voice, but I can't do it naturally. And why would I want to compete with somebody who that's their natural speaking voice, who can do that effortlessly and do it a lot better? Then you kind of learn, this right here is my wheelhouse. This is what I do well, and
Right.
you pursue that.
That's a perfect example. A lot of the times, I'm sure you see those breakdowns where it's like, okay, I want you to play a 16-year-old boy or an 8-year-old child, and you're like, this is the voice you want this to sound like that. Why am
Right.
I working this
Come
hard?
on, guys. I can try it, but it doesn't.
It
I
doesn't
don't think
sound
I'm going to fool
natural and
anybody.
authentic. Yeah. And then
It's going to sound like me acting like a kid. Like it's yeah. It doesn't. It just doesn't work that well.
yeah. Well, it's
Mhm.
I'm happy that you put it that way. A lot of the time, actors, voice actors, we get in that space of we can do anything. Sure, maybe, but if you work on your one spot, you're that little box,
Mhm.
it becomes that much more powerful. Um,
Well, and also the acceptance of no, you can't. I mean, you in your ears, it maybe sounds like you're doing great at all of the voices, but from a long time of recording myself and listening back, there's it's not as big a difference as you think. And but the more off you are from your natural voice, the less convincing you sound at the acting part of it. And like there are a handful that can do stuff all over the place and do great with it all over the place. But if you can't just do it off the bat and it sounds great, or if, and in my case, those young voices, they're not even, it's not even something that I feel that if I worked at really hard I could do. It'd be a waste of time. I'm competing with people that just have that. It, I just see no reason for it.
no, of course. So I have time for one more question for you,
Okay.
Albie. What makes Albie Robles smile?
Well, you already know that getting spooked in a fun way it makes me smile a lot. But of course, for me, that it's always been that drive of entertaining, knowing that somebody enjoyed something I put out there is hugely rewarding. If somebody enjoys the podcast, or if they laugh at something I did in a project, or got scared by something I did in a project, um, any time that a performance gets the desired result, it's the most wonderful feeling.
That's well said. A lot of it is that I love it. It's the stay in your box, do your job, scare the crap out of people, and
Yeah,
and make them smile. So I mean, everyone can find you at albieroblesvoices.com.
not voices, just voice.
Oh, I'm sorry,
AlbieRoblesVoice.com. Mm-hmm.
albieroblesvoice.com, TikTok, Instagram. He's a tweeter, but not that much. Um, and check out Scare Me Now podcast, available, I'm assuming, everywhere.
Yeah, all the outlets have it. Mhm.
Fabulous. That's all the time I have for you today. Albie with Coffee with Chris. I really appreciate it. Have a fantastic day, everybody, and smile to inspire.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Had a great time.
Thanks.